The Super Bowl being over means most people are going to move on to the 2023 NFL draft, but there are some that are going to turn their attention to the XFL, an alternate football league to the NFL. Some think that maybe this will work. Others believe that it's just going to flop like it did before. It's going to be interesting to see how The Rock and that group really put this league together. And today we're going to take a look at the teams and the players that are going to be playing in it. We're going to rank those teams and talk about some of the players on each team. But let me know who you think the best team in this league is, what you think about what the XFL is going to do this year, and maybe some players that you're interested in as well. Start off with the Arlington Renegades, formerly the Dallas Renegades. Bob Stoops is back on the football field. He is coaching again, and I think his team is going to be really fun to watch. A quarterback position is going to be interesting because Kyle Slaughter has an opportunity to be really, really good. I think that we're still waiting for him to put it all together. It's just kind of hard when the seasons that he's played haven't been full seasons with, different leagues shutting down, but he is still keeping at it. And he's going to have some really fun players to work with. Adrian Killens was an absolute speedster at UCF. I think that he is a player to definitely keep an eye on. And that running back, the backfield has some interesting talent, and Killens is at the top of that because of that speed. Then when you look at the wide receivers, Tyler Vaughns was a guy who kind of flew under the radar because of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think that at USC, he showed that he could be consistent. He has some really good athleticism. He's put in the work off the field as well. So he has the potential to be really exciting. And then at tight end, Sal Cannella is a big body pass catcher that is really going to be interesting to see how he exploits some of those matchups. We saw what he could do at Auburn, and I think they have the chance to be really good. This is a team that's really well put together. Bob Stoops has a good roster, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do, what this team can do in the XFL, and how they, if they do finish the entire season, how do they finish? Right now, it feels like this is a really good team, the best team. They're going to have some competition though. Next up is the DC Defenders, and to me, this team has a lot of talent at the quarterback position. Jordan Ta'amu is a name you should recognize, formerly of the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are in this league again. He is on a new team, and he played pretty well for St. Louis. He was kind of the talk of that league for a little bit of time. And he also has a teammate in DR King, who I think can be a Swiss Army knife for DC's offense. DR King is the former Houston and Miami quarterback who also played the some receiver at Houston. He has good speed, maybe an undersized player that you don't necessarily want playing quarterback long term, but he is definitely a weapon you need to utilize. The running back position is loaded for this team. I think that this offense has the potential to be really exciting on the ground game. Fuka Williams is an explosive threat for this offense from Kansas, someone who was super underrated. And this is a guy who played on Kansas before Kansas was good or before they got better. This is a guy who suffered a lot, but he was one of the few bright spots of that Kansas program. Chad Hansen's another underrated player, the former Cal receiver. I think that he is going to be one of those guys that, again, flies under the radar in this league as well, and a really fun option, a potential reliable option for these quarterbacks. DC is going to give really, you could put DC or Arlington at the top. I don't think that there's any complaints either way. These two teams have a good amount of talent that could be really exciting, and they're probably going to be competing for the top two spots, but there are teams behind them as well that will give them some trouble. Next, move on to San Antonio. Hines Ward is coaching, and that's really interesting. I'm curious to see how he's going to do as a coach in a professional league. When you look at the teams, the players that he has available, it's really it kind of reminds me of a Big 12 team. You kind of have the offense that can be really explosive, but also you have the defenders that have some talent, but are they going to make enough stops? The offense, I think when you look at Jack Cohn is the starting quarterback for them, what can Jack Cohn do at his stop in Notre Dame? He was pretty good, but we didn't see him take that next step to be a great player. And can he do that? Can he show NFL teams what he can do in the XFL? Does that get him a spot? Another guy to keep an eye on, Kalen Balaj. You'll know him from his record-breaking performance at Arizona State against Texas Tech. Funny enough, a Big 12 team. He is also going to be joined in the offense by Texas Tech's own TJ Vasher. I think a big time receiver, a guy with a tremendous range and a big catch radius that's going to help a guy like Jack Cohn. And then when you flip to the defensive side of the ball, another Texas Tech guy, Rico Jeffers, a tackling machine potentially for this defense, and then an underrated player out of Iowa, Jack Corner, playing at safety. Then this team has some solid pieces, and they have some veteran players from the NFL as well. So I think that this is a team that could again be sneak up on the top two teams. One team that is definitely going to you're going to need to keep an eye on for the top spot. Next, we head to the Northwest in Seattle, and this is a really it's an interesting team in terms of they have high ceiling for this league. It's just a matter of them reaching their potential. When you look at the quarterback position, Ben DiNucci is going to be a solid player for them. Steven Montez has a big arm, the former Colorado Buffalo. I think the two quarterbacks would be an interesting setup, but I think again, if you have two, you have none. So they probably have to go with one of the guys. DiNucci, I think, is going to get the nod there, and that's going to be fun to see because they have Josh Gordon on their team, and Gordon's been in and out of the NFL, whether it's been suspensions or comebacks and whatnot. I don't know what he can do in a league like this, but I'm excited to see what the potential outcome will be, what he can do to showcase that he's still got the talent. He's still able to make big plays. And that's something that is really going to spark some conversations. This is a league, again, that is maybe not the most popular, but it's one in which guys could get opportunities in the NFL. We've seen some of these guys that are also back, they got opportunities because of the AAF, because of the USFL, because of the XFL the first time around in 2020. You're looking at guys that are still trying to play in the NFL, a lot of them, and they're trying to keep their dreams alive, and you can't really fault them for that. And this is a team that if they all reach their potential, could be a contender. Next, we head to Houston, and Wade Phillips is still coaching somehow. I think that he just loves the game too much to walk away from it. Their offense has a lot of interesting talent. You're looking at a potential, when you look at some of the players, you have two former teammates in Cole McDonald and Cedric Bird out of Hawaii, two guys that play an explosive offense or played an explosive offense with Hawaii, and you're looking at it more of the air raid type of players. Then you add in a former air raid running back in Max Borghi. I think Max Borghi could be the most talented running back in this league. He is someone who can run the football. He's also extremely talented catching the ball as well. So I think he fits into this offense really well. The defensive line for Houston, really talented. CJ Brewer and Glenn Logan are just two guys that are on that list, but this is a front four, even maybe a front seven that is going to be really, really good in the XFL this year, and guys that are going to get off blocks or even open things up for the linebackers behind them. And we mentioned them before, the St. Louis Battlehawks coming in, maybe not as good as they were back in 2020, but this is still a team that you'll want to keep an eye on. I think that they have some good talent. When you go to the defensive side of the ball, it's really fun to see guys like Mike Rose and Carson Wells, two guys that were underrated in college at Iowa State and Colorado, respectively. You're looking at tackling machines. These guys knew how to make plays. They just maybe didn't have the skill set to play in the NFL, but they still have a chance. If they're still pursuing that dream, there's a reason why they keep playing. They love the game. They want another chance, maybe. And the offense has some questions. Manny Wilkins was named the starter. You also have an experienced player in AJ McCarron that could be useful. And Mateo Durant is one of the running backs that I want to keep an eye on in this league, someone who comes out of Duke. There's a lot of potential excitement with this offense. Even you look at some of the wide receivers that they have. You look at Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State, an absolute monster when it was coming to jump balls. Gary Jennings Jr. out of West Virginia, Marcel Aitman out of Oklahoma State, Austin Prohl out of North Carolina. This is a team that could be really dangerous throwing the football. This offense has a lot of potential, and that's something that you'll want to keep an eye on. And the defense has the talent to make a run. So maybe this is too low for them. Maybe they're an underrated group, and that's going to be really fun to watch as well. Next up is another team in Vegas that has players that are maybe just on their way out, but also you have the potential to be really explosive. if you're all, finally able to see these guys on the field. Martavis Bryant is another one, kind of like the Josh Gordon. If you're able to see what he can do at his peak, he was one of the more exciting players in the NFL at wide receiver. He was a very explosive playmaker, and I think that Vegas is betting on him to do that for them. Luis Perez is a familiar name for those who are into the AAF, USFL, and XFL. He has kind of bounced around from team to team, and he is back in this year's XFL as well. Brett Hundley is back from UCLA, and Vic Beasley is an older player, older I say at 30 years old, and you're looking at a veteran player that understands how to play the game and can help some of these younger guys get to where they want to go. Vegas has some talent at the top, but it feels like they're kind of top heavy. Maybe that depth is something that they're lacking. And finally, we have the Orlando Guardians, another team that maybe the ceiling isn't as high as a lot of these other teams, and then maybe there's some depth concerns. Paxton Lynch is back. And once again, another guy that's been bouncing around from team to team, and it feels like he's been in the leagues forever. I think that there's some exciting talent at wide receiver as well. Charleston Rambo has some potential talent there in terms of being able to be explosive, has good speed. Then you look at a guy like Josh Harvey Clemens. If that name rings a bell, it's because he was a former safety that moved to linebacker and now finds himself on the defensive line. A big body player, good length, and I think that he is just finding his way on how to utilize that length to the best of his ability. Then you look at the defense, the rest of the defense, there's good guys on every single level. So I think this team might rely more on defense. It's just a matter if the offense can get going. And really, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams all play together. You're looking at rosters that are kind of just put together. Been playing together for a little bit of time, and sometimes that can work well, and sometimes it just takes a little while. So it's really going to be interesting to see how these teams work together, how this league turns out. And one of the things with the XFL is I think they just need time. We haven't seen a league last more than one season to the point where we've seen stability, we've seen teams learn from what they're going to do, or learn the leagues learn from what they did in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see how the league learns on top of watching these teams play on top of watching these players that maybe you didn't know about. You look at PJ Walker from Houston last year or in 2020. He started for the Carolina Panthers. I'm not saying every player is going to do that in this league, but I'm saying this is a league that gives those guys a chance to play when they're not getting NFL opportunities, because sometimes guys can show more when they're playing in a game. Some guys elevate their game when they're playing in an actual game versus practice. And hopefully this league provides plenty of these guys with those opportunities.